Thank you, Ulf. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers really much for this. It's a really interesting and an important symposium and an important topic. And I will also start with saying that this is a study done within a national project, sort of an ongoing national project on collecting data from recreational fisheries here in Sweden. So this is part of that umbrella project. And this particular study is then coordinated by myself, Stefan Larsson, and my colleague Göran Sundblad, and we both work then at the Department of Aquatic Resources at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. And my talk here is going to be then focused on using cameras to trying to estimate recreational pike fishing effort. The study area then is similar or the same to some, for at least a couple of talks from yesterday. And so the credits here goes then to the REFISC project. And we are just placing our study here on their study areas for reasons that I will talk to you about later. But we've used then 8 different bays, and they are sort of paired up. And you can see them on the map here. And all of the bays are located in sort of the Stockholm archipelago. And each pair here is, we're supposed to, even from 2020, as you can see in the table here, consisting of then 1 protected bay and 1 open bay, open to fishing. And this year that came in effect. So now there's actually true pairs then, 1 protected and 1 open paired. And these were chosen then to sort of have similar habitats and morphology and so on within the pairs. And in the protected areas, fishing is then, recreational fishing is then banned from April 15th to June 15th. Trying then to protect the spawning period of pike in these bays. And the study period within this project then was last year from March 19 to June 23rd, and for this year, March 15 to June 29, sort of more than overlapping this period of banned fishing in the protected bays. Here's some aerial shots of the bays. You can get some idea on how they look. On the top left there, you see the only bay that's been protected for a long time, even before 2020. And you can see it's a pretty confined bay with just a narrow inlet. And many of the bays looks like these. They are quite confined with narrow inlets, more or less. And of course, these are targeted by pike fishermen during the spawning time, because pike move into these areas to spawn. And of course, that aggregate, and they are interested, of interest then to the pike fishing community. In some bays, we actually put out 2 cameras. Oh, I forgot to say that each red dot here is a camera that we put up, and the blue line is showing the angle of the camera, of the view of the camera. So these are the 4 bays of the northern part of the study area, and these are the 4 more to the south. And similar to the northern part, the bays are pretty confined with narrow inlets. enabling us to, at least to some extent, covering all boat traffics going in and out of these bays. Again, in some areas we put up 2 cameras. This, for instance, this area, it was a tricky one where we had 2 arms of the bay. So we had 1 camera in each of these arms, which might be good, but which also create some problems later on when we are analyzing the data. We used simple cameras. This model Brino cameras, they are pretty cheap to buy. In our study then, I mean, this will vary depending on settings and everything, but the battery life was about 30 days. And the memory card that came with the camera using our setting in this study lasted for about 14 days. We set the cameras to take 1 image per minute, so 1,440 images per day. The camera output is actually all the images converted to videos, just to make up for storage on the camera. So the output will be videos, and then we have to convert the videos back to images prior to analyzing them. And to analyze all the images, we are using a freeware, Time-Lapse 2. Within that program, you can set your own head here, so you can choose what to record in the image. You make just a PDF template, and then you can decide yourself what buttons you would like to have within the Time-Lapse 2 analysis. And if you fast forward in Time-Lapse, you will under our settings of 1,440 images per day, you could fast forward 1 day in 3 minutes and 20 seconds then. Of course, when we are analyzing, it will take a bit longer than that, because you have to stop and go back and so on to check things that you're watching in the images. So depending then on the number of boats, and also like wind and weather and so on, fog can be an issue and so on. Each camera day will take something like 5 to 20 minutes of analysis then. I will show you just some quick examples of images. So this is from Tomtviken, and you can see up here what the different things we were recording, date and time, image quality. We put in a new boat, just with you can tick new boats here. You could tick mark pictures, so it's easy to go back to the exact picture you noticed something on, and you can put in the analyst's name and so on. We also put in seals to record any seals observed in the images. I don't think we ever saw one, but still you can sort of design your own template and buttons up here. So in here you can see there's one boat. They're probably fishing. You can perhaps imagine rods sticking up here. So this will be a second step in this study. I will definitely would like to stress this project is very much in progress. We're sort of still collecting data and doing the first analysis. So the results I will show you later is kind of rough, but still you will get an idea on sort of the potential of using cameras at least. Here's another bay, Söderfladen. That's the bay that's been protected for a long, or protected during the spawning time for a long time, but still still, even though it's protected, you can see this is well in the time frame of the prohibited time, and still there's boats going in and out here. Likely these two guys are fishermen. This one is standing up. I think this guy is rowing or something. Another example, Myttingeviken, definitely two people fishing in here. And the fourth example, also probably fishermen, then you couldn't imagine two guys standing up here fishing. These are some examples. I'm the first to confess that some boats are really difficult to decide if there are fishermen or not, but that will, as I said, be the next step within this project. Some preliminary results then from last year, and the results I'm going to show you are number of unique boats only, but excluding like sailboats and kayaks and jet skis, or in another word, excluding boats that definitely not are fishing boats, at least. We have yet to look at errors done by the observers. It's quite time consuming and a challenge sitting to watch all these images. So it's perhaps easy to miss a boat or two in images. So we will do some double check on that later on within the project. We will also later on have some classification or get some ratio of fishing boats versus non-fishing boats, but that is not done yet, at least. And we also haven't analyzed the data set for this year at all. We're in progress, but we have not done any analysis further on that data set. So this is again then really rough preliminary data for last year. And in this, I pooled all unique boats, but excluding definitely boats that are not fishing. And a pretty nice pattern emerge, as you can see. And the blue horizontal or the vertical bars here are weekends, and you can see all peaks in number of boats more or less is on weekends. And I mean, that's no surprise. There's probably more boat activity during weekends, during the weekdays that we expected, of course, in the beginning, but it kind of gives us confidence that we are at least catching the pattern that we think is going on out there. And for single days, you can see the highest scores there are about 50 boats then during a single week and day. And you can also see that there's more and more boat activity during the study period because there's within the base and also in general, there are of course more other kind of recreational boat trips than fishing. So you would expect that the number of boats in this bay would go up during this study period. But perhaps most of the boats early on here are out there for fishing pike. And if you look, and if we then zoom in on the bays themselves and the pairs here, you can see the blue one here, Söderfladen, up here, the red dot there. That's the bay that's been protecting for a long time. So it was also protected during 2020, but you can still see there's some boats going in and out, not many, but some at least. When they are of course allowed to be in there, but they are not allowed to fish for pike in that bay. but you can also see in this that there's some days really a lot of boat traffic in these quite confined bays, up to over 10 boats in this case. And in this one, Tomtviken, we had the record of close to 25 boats within the bay during one single day. And these are the 4 bays more to the south, similar pattern. Fewer boats early in the study and more boats at the end. And again, quite a lot of boats in some days, up to 20 boats in both these cases. So some first lessons learned from this study, that the cameras have worked really well. They're quite cheap to buy, they are reliable, and they are really easy to set up and maintain. We had some battery failure occasionally, but overall they are really reliable and easy to use. What we also learned when we have started to analyze the data is that placement of the cameras is quite important. We're struggling a bit with the base in which we have 2 cameras to separate boats from one another so we don't double count them. We also learned that it's a really, the data handling is really heavy. It's a lot of bytes. As you can see here, we have 3,600 camera days and more than 5 million images. So just moving things from one folder to another or putting data on an external disk is often quite challenging. So because of that, the first analysis, just picking out boats from these images are quite time consuming. So roughly we have used or will have used 800 to 900 hours for collecting this data set. And I calculated that just estimating 10 minutes of analyzing per camera day. So the next step in this will of course be to further analyze data, get the data set from this year ready. And when we have done that, we will combine this data set with the rod and reel fishing survey data from the ReFisk project. And we'll then ask a question if the prior fishing or the effort that we get from this study, if that in some way affect the catchability in this reel and rod survey. It might be that pike that's been caught and released change behavior and so on. And that will be quite important to take into account if we are trying to use rod and reel as a sort of a data collecting method in the future. So by that, I would like to thank you for listening, and also address acknowledgement to several people that's been involved setting up cameras and spending hours and hours in front of a monitoring, looking at often boring pictures, but occasionally quite interesting. We had moose and roe deer and other animals showing up on the images off and on. So, but mostly it's quite boring to look at a lot of pictures like this. And I would also like to thank the Swedish Agency on Marine and Water Management for financing this study. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Stefan.